It's enough for a film to come out and for me to like, love, enjoy it, for it to give me a different perspective on something or maybe even alter my view. But for a film to so drastically change my perception on a facet of society and reality and how I consider race or race relations or our world's culture as a whole, like this was quite impactful. And today we have Origin. Technically, it says Origin came out last year in 2023, at least making its rounds at the film festivals and certain screenings and all that. My local art house theater, I've been seeing more and more trailers for it, and I figured it was still like going to be a new release. And then what threw us off even more was that my friend group and I, we went to the latest Regal Mystery movie. They're always a film that's, minimum 1 week out, typically 10, 12 days out, and it was this. And we're like, wait a second. So we looked it up online, getting an actual like nationwide or regional or international release, I guess, 18th, 19th of this year, something like that. So technically it hasn't come out yet and we got to see it early. I could tell it was going to be this like more emotional, grounded, but also dealing with hate or fascism or possibly racism, some of the caste system and race relations with a lot of important black figureheads behind it in terms of writing, creation, etc., etc. So I was already curious. I wasn't dying to see it, but I was like, oh, I'll probably go see that. So Origin, directed by Ava DuVernay, writer, producer, director, heavily involved in the industry of cinema and media, and she's been doing it for a while. Her last most recent film she did was 2018's A Wrinkle in Time. What she's most well known for is her work on When They See Us, which I, ironically, still need to see, and also the other popular movie, Selma, kind of back in the day, just some years ago. Also, Miss DuVernay has won many awards. I'll just leave it at that. I started to go down the list and there were too many. So she's a highly acclaimed artist, director, producer, writer, etc., etc. So this is actually based on its author Isabel Wilkerson, who's the character that I'm about to get into who plays who, but that's the main character of our film Origin. But it's based off of her seminal book Caste: The Origins of Our Discontents, which she wrote while coping with a lot of personal tragedies, so it was quite the endeavor. Our main star, powerhouse of an actor, actress, Anjune Ellis Taylor, or Elise Taylor, Elise perhaps, Anjane. In any case, I'm behind on the review for it, but she was Mama in the recent musical adaptation of The Color Purple, and she was also in. I did cover this film. I don't know if I gave her a shout out or not. I might have. But she was in King Richard, which was also a really good movie. Anyway, Origin, what the hell is it about? It's about a writer who's approached right after the Trayvon Martin, let's just call it what it is, straight up murder. I assume a lot of the narrative events that happen in the film are maybe taken in a certain sequence or dramatized or set up so it's more conducive for film format. So I'm going based off of what the movie showed me and what little I do know. Bear with me and apologies if I get anything factually incorrect. But she's approached about writing about it, and they don't even really ask for anything too specific. She's like, no, I don't do stuff like that anymore. I don't do assignments. I want to be able to write something and really sink my teeth into it. And they're like, no, look at the case in front of you. You can find something deeper here. Take this as the baseboard to jump into this as a project, and we're sure that you'll be able to just take your time, think on it, and write something. And as she's struggling with that and kind of thinking on it, she suffers some extreme personal losses, one after the other. It's like Iron Claw all over again. You're like, how much can one person lose? And in the middle of all her grief, you know what? Props to her, because she does what a lot of people sometimes can't do, especially if they're that down and out. What else am I gonna do? I got no excuses now. I need to work. I need to channel this somewhere besides just spiraling. It's a sensitive subject to discuss on any good day, but it's an important one to discuss. And the way that they go about talking about it in this film really educating me as well in the process. Let me preface this by saying I am no expert. I'm only going based off of what I gleaned from the movie adaptation of her book. I am a white male who has really no proper authority speaking on this. I'm reviewing the film, putting in my opinion as an ally. That's all I can say. That's all I got. So again, if I speak out of term, I don't know. People were pretty happy when I reviewed The Blackening. I think I was pretty sensitive enough in that. So hopefully you catch the right vibe. I don't know. I got the colors. It's Mayan culture, but I got the colors, right? You look at the whole Trayvon Martin, George Floyd, when the guy wrote his card through the crowd and everything, and it's the first word everybody jumps to mind, and our main character points this out, is, racism. And it's like, well, it's such a broad brush. Let's get into the facts of the case here. Like, is it actually racism? And through the entirety of this movie, which, by the way, 2.5 hour, damn near close to it, it's a chonker of a film, but I feel like it never overstates its welcome. But she dives further into this and actually thinks like, well, maybe it's not racism, but maybe it's something deeper, more ingrained in society and government and politics and culture. And sure enough, she's able to dig up different examples from history, both our culture, but also with Germans and Nazis and the Holocaust, and also over in India with the caste system. And it turns out it's more of a caste issue, which, truth be told, I was never I wish half my teachers were as good as this writer, or conveying information, making the stories more engaging, making the information easy to pick up. There's a reason why my proclivities and my skill lies in tech, media, arts, and English. It's because those were the best teachers I had that actually gave a shit back when I was a youngster. It's a shame I didn't have somebody who taught me about caste system or racism or race relations in high school, though I'm in America, so I'm sure there's obvious reasons there. I will now hop off my soapbox. This film was mostly prose. It is one of the biggest bummers, technically, of last year / this year, but you will feel sad through a lot of it, especially if you have trauma with losing loved ones in your life, or just hardships, or if you're very empathetic and you don't like seeing people being put down. Or there's times this film has dramatic reenactments that are very hard to watch. People being brought over from Africa via slavery, or the Jewish people shaved and put in camps in the Holocaust, or India, people involved in the lower levels of the caste system being forced to clean human excrement as a societal denotion, essentially. So there's a lot of very hard to stomach and hard to watch thematic elements in this film that are very important, and I think that people need to see. Tying back to my original point, lots of moments in this film with loss and also trial and tribulation. It's a brutal watch. Grade A performances across the board, whether it's a character like our main character, whether it's ancillary characters, whether it's characters that are only on screen for a few minutes, even people that aren't officially actors but they get actual PhD holders and professors and all this, even educators that are involved in this, just from their passion and their knowledge. I thought they were actors, and then they showed them in the credits. I was like, what? That guy's not even he was just there. They just went to the university, huh? It's like an interview, but they're great. It's the passion and the knowledge. It all translates so well into this educational format. It's like a lecture, but almost you don't really realize it's a lecture. It just happens to be informational narration. And then your heart goes out to every person that she meets in her journey. Almost every single person you just immediately care about, or you can link to on an emotional, empathetic level. Beautiful or flawed human beings. It's great. It just feels like everybody has connective tissue between them. It's a really good story, and in terms of both how it translates to the film, but also just from its premise in real life in general, it's just an emotional journey that had me really invested. I wasn't on edge of my seat, pins and needles, but I'm like, man, I'm really curious to hear about her journey and what she writes and how she writes. It's not straightforward. There's speed bumps, there's curveballs, different columns of main talking points. When she finally has the idea, she comes to her associates and she's like, oh yeah, I want to do this because I think this and all connect. And they're like, slow your roll there.
Whoa, slow down, Maurice.
Let's get some bullet points here and move forward. And then even as she travels abroad and gets these bullet points, she meets people that are like refuting her, that are engaging with her in discourse, but are also saying, oh, well, actually, no, I don't think your point does connect the way you think it does. Like I've already said a few times, I really appreciate this film, similar to what Blackberry did, but not as in the comedic side of it. Blackberry was a fun, entertaining, engaging, educational film that taught me about how the rise and fall of BlackBerry, the mobile device, came to be. But with this, I mean, like, there's some moments of comedic elements to help bring to help balance out the tone, right? But this film is mostly serious. I learned so much about the cast and the cast system, and how more accurately that applies to our culture, and really how the world has adopted it since its initial inception. In terms of the conversation of caste system versus racism, there's a lot to get into there. I'm speaking in broad generalizations that relate to my experience with the film, because I don't have time to sit down, write out, and do a full study like she did. I do want to read the book. I plan on reading the book. Again, going based off of me as a movie critic, talking about the film and my limited worldviews and experiences. So again, bear with me if I speak out of turn. Funny I just said that, because the last note that I have on here as a pro is that this film is just frankly inspiring. This isn't solving racism or any grand issues or problems, but I have new information. My opinion has changed. I feel enlightened by watching this film. Not like some big religious conversion or anything like that, but I feel like I actually learned something. You know, I still have the same values, and I still feel the same about, racism bad and the human spirit prevailing, but it's changed kind of like the labels and definitions that I once had, and I'm able to recontextualize a lot of these political, societal, social leanings, if that makes any sense. It's almost all pros. The only possible con I can put in here, and it's barely even a detraction, because like this movie didn't have 100% of the wow factor for me, but it was just about there. But if I had to really nitpick, the balance between the narrative progression of the story and our main character's personal emotional struggle, slight imbalance. And like once the loss comes into play, some of that is dwelled on a little bit too much sometimes, and it can kind of, I think when one of my friends complained about the pacing, I don't want to go as far as to say this film has pacing issues. I just think that it's like, if I really had to nitpick, and I wouldn't call it a perfect film, I'd say it's near perfection, on the precipice thereof. But the only downside is that, yes, I think that balance between her processing her grief and the story continuing forward like hits a little rough snag. 100% see this in theaters. It's the first film of 2024 that I would give a hearty recommendation to catch when it comes out. I think it's a very important film. It's going to have some tough conversations, some very heavy thematic elements, and just, I mean, the topics of racism and the caste system discussed, dissected, the depravity of what humanity is capable of, and all that. At the end of the day, I would give Origin a low 5 out of 5. I give it a low 5 out of 5. Not the first official perfect film of the year, but it's damn near perfect. It's a hard recommend for me. I think it's a very important film to watch. I gotta read the book, but as far as I can tell, it's a beautiful adaptation. It's a real who's who of guest star roles, by the way. John Bernthal in there, the gal from Haunting of Hill House, and You, season 2. Even I think that Finn guy that was in the one season of American Horror Story. That's all I gotta say about Origin. Hopefully I did it justice in this little quick dissection, but thank you guys so much for watching, and stay tuned for the next review of whatever movie I review. Yeah, goodbye, travelers.